A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Films I Should Have Talked About Years Ago. So here we go with another bonus episode. But believe it or not, this is going to be the first time that I'm actually going to be taking a bonus episode away from the brand new stuff. But I will get back to it eventually, because I've said before that I will actually be doing a bonus episode on pandemic-related films. Because yesterday, I talked about 93 Days, which specifically talked about the 2014 Ebola viral outbreaks and how serious of a problem they were at the time. But now is the time that I go ahead and follow up on that subject of pandemic-related media. Because I will tell you that at the time nCoV was officially declared a pandemic, it took over 5 months for that to happen, when it should have happened in October 2019, when the virus itself was identified and a warning would be stated to the world about how it could spread to other countries and potentially wipe out humanity with its mortality rate. So, let's go ahead and talk ourselves a 1995 instant classic, the way I see it, Outbreak. Yeah. This film is undeniably amazing. For what people might call a bad film, this really does give us quite a grim message about the realities of what today's pandemics are always gonna be like. It doesn't really matter at this point what kind of things might be out there. This film shows a monkey spreading a virus known as Motaba. And the reality has shown that bats from Asia have, of course, spread a virus known as nCoV. There's a big difference between a monkey and Motaba and bats and nCoV. When you mix the two together, though, it only makes sense for this film to become a trendy topic on Netflix. As a matter of fact, this was at the time listed on the top 10 most trending films of spring 2020. And as a matter of fact, I got around to watching it because I had no idea eventually something like this would actually exist way bigger and way better than it should have. But when you really think about it, the time did in fact come around for change to take place. Change that so many people are not going to accept. But that's okay. It takes a long time for people to adjust to these things. And the lockdowns were just what we needed in this point in time. When are we ever going to get them back? Well, I guess I don't even know. Maybe if Delta Law becomes even more deadlier, then maybe we will have to go back into lockdowns. Hopefully we can, before so many people are left for dead. That would not be pretty if you were to just leave those people out there and not put them back inside where they belong. Outbreak, of course, tells us a much bigger, more in-depth, insightful thing out there. The fact that a virus could live inside an animal and eventually be spread out to some sort of parts in America. Specifically, a small township in the state of California houses this one and only monkey that is shipped all the way from another part of the world. And this monkey, of course, contained the deadly virus that, of course, have been around for a long time. But a viral outbreak, of course, has truthfully happened with a lot of other viruses out there. We all know that nCoV is, in fact, one of the latest mutations that had happened from the SARS virus, which, as you know, happened in 2002 and 2003. The SARS pandemic was unbelievably nightmarish. But at least that one did not even come close to what nCoV's body count is like. And the same thing would probably go with a variety of other viruses. But when you really think about it, Outbreak's canonical explanations of how the in-film Motaba actually goes and infects as many people as it can. At first, it's not airborne, but eventually it does. Man, the kind of nightmares that come around left and right. The rather suspenseful soundtrack comes in, the way the music intensifies every now and then, especially with these kind of scenes where some of the doctors are cutting up the patients who have been infected and then later died because of it. Wow. I especially remember when Rene Russo took a scalpel and cut into one of the victims, only to find the organs liquefied because of the virus itself. It is that powerful that it apparently melts the crap out of the organs. I tell you, if anything could be better from 1995, though, it would probably be a handful of other films. I'd say 1995 was probably the most memorable year of films that I was possibly able to get a hold of. There were tons of films from 95 that I could have ever had in my life. Tons of them. So, Toy Story ain't alone when you got Outbreak. Man, I will say for sure that the cast was also impressive. You have all sorts of actors out there, well-known familiar names left and right. I tell ya, who could ever forget people like Cuba Gooding Jr., Kevin Spacey, Donald Sutherland, Rene Russo, Dustin Hoffman, Morgan Freeman, and many others that were featured in this film. I tell you, this is just another mere example of a film where I could go on ahead and refer to every single name on there and not even forget about it. I tell you, it's like with a bunch of other films I've watched, like Shazam, Sonic the Hedgehog, and the majority of other films as well, that I've probably seen in my whole life, but then again, this film is way older than most of them. So I guess it's only just by mere example of how I was able to get to know the names of these actors way before I even watched this for the first time in April 2020. And I really do have to talk about the ending here. When Cuba and Dustin both steal the helicopter, they try to go and spread the word that they have found a cure for the virus itself, they found an antidote, and apparently nobody's willing to listen to them, not even their own government. They proceed with a bombing. A type of bomb that is known to suck oxygen out of the air and incinerate the crap out of an entire city. And, well, the way that Hoffman and Cuba Gooding Jr. actually steer into the path of the bomber plane, wow. That's like playing chicken. But instead, you have a Subaru and a locomotive. A helicopter and a bomber, pretty much. I feel like only one of them is going to get out of there alive, but in the end, though, the bomb is dropped on the water instead of the township, meaning, of course, they did listen at some point. Donald Sutherland's character is dismissed, and, well, all is well. Knowing that the truth had finally come out, and Hoffman and Cuba Gooding Jr. were, in fact, telling the truth the whole time. Explaining how the antidote was, in fact, an effectiveness against the virus itself. So, you know what? I don't care what people say out there. This is a good film. A good film that centers on something that's currently happening right now. Except, of course, to our knowledge, we haven't seen any place getting bombed yet because of the virus's extreme levels of spreading. So, at this point, it's fair to say, and it's probably not all accurate by any means, because the reality is that because of how huge the pandemic is, there's no actual quarantines. Like, there are no military checkpoints, there are no giant trucks blocking the roads, there are no guards on duty day and night, there are no encampments where patients can go into if they feel like they're infected, and there are certainly no bombers flying over the air with the ability to completely decimate an entire city with the virus in it, and possibly with any other remaining survivors. So, while none of those things will probably ever be present at this point, it's still fair to say that these are the kind of viral outbreaks that we have today, except they're killing way more people. Way more. 5 million people and counting. It's already a fraction of the way to what the Spanish flu had over 100 years ago. So at the rate that we're probably seeing here, it probably will at least match up with what the Spanish flu had back then. Probably. But as time goes on, we're probably going to be seeing a lot of other developments take place. And as such here, my overall scoring to this film is going to be a pretty nice, plentiful, yet generous 8.6 out of 10. That really is saying something. For a pandemic film, this one probably is the best mirror example that we could potentially get. And I'm not really playing around here with that. So with that being said, that's pretty much my bonus. But I will have another episode of films I should have talked about years ago later on today. So if you want to see more of that on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.